Hey everyone, it's Kandace and Sher with Processing Trauma Out Loud. Sher, we are on a roll here with doing episodes about being wild women of desire. Desire is what makes us human. And desire is also something that if we really sit in, think about, talk about, ponder, it brings a mix of emotion. I'm just going to mention this. I've shared this before. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago. But I was named in a story group years ago that I was a woman of deep desire. And I literally went back and thought, you are not safe. Don't call me that. And
Wow.
I just want to say, I am a good woman of deep desire, not only for my own goodness, but the whole world.
Mm,
And now, you know, we we do what we can with sharing our stories, sharing our journeys for whoever wants to be encouraged. But yeah, I just want to say like this topic, I hope stirs the hearts of our listeners to say, where have I shut down my desire and how do I hold desire and what is desire?
mm. Yes, and I bless you that you are a woman of deep desire. And I think, it's interesting because when I started story work and I started to hear the word desire used with much more freedom than, I think I had really heard it used, I had a certain sense of uncomfortableness even about, the word desire. And now we're just doing podcasts on it, Candace.
Well, this is what happens. So I just heard somebody say this. I was listening to a podcast, I can't remember, but this guy was saying whatever was once the pain point, the deep brokenness, as that thing heals, it actually becomes part of what you move into to reverse. It's the reversal effect.
Yeah.
Okay. So we killed desire, we shut down desire, we had shame over desire. And here we are talking about the beauty of desire.
Mm. Yeah, which is beautiful and glorious
Yeah.
and powerful. I
Mhm.
think when we think about women who are powerful, we have stereotypes and we each person has their own paradigm of what that looks like. But I think a powerful woman is a woman of desire, a woman who understands her heart and her soul and her brain and her body in ways that allows and even nurtures desire to come forth in ways that truly change the world.
Mhm. I like that you're talking about powerful women because, we all, for those of us who've had childhood trauma, we grew up with so much of a sense of powerlessness.
Yeah.
And so in repairing that, we go through this journey of like needing to understand what is our power and how do we use our power for good.
Yeah.
And so I do believe that's connected to desire. And so today you're just going to bring our listeners another question that we're also going to process. And you mentioned this last time, but we also want to invite our listeners to reach out to Candace Share. Um, I don't know, what's our email address? CandaceShare@gmail.com
Yep.
or find us on Facebook.
Mhm.
Yeah, and just reach out.
Yeah, we would love to hear. Absolutely love to hear from our listeners. Yeah. So here's the question we want to discuss today. Have you experienced a time when you were free to desire and then experienced pain and regret?
Mhm, mhm. Am I going first? Or do you wanna go first this time?
I can go first.
Okay.
With a lot of vulnerability, I will say. We just talked a little bit before we pressed record about where I feel like I want to talk about, and I feel a sense of vulnerability to go here, and I also feel desire to speak about this.
Mm,
I have shared on the podcast many times that I have had a lifelong desire for a good mother, and that I kind of have gone through life, "Are you my mother? Are you my mother?" And just desiring the love of a good mother, being seen and soothed and safe and secure in a relationship that would heal the deep wounds of my soul.
mhm,
And that has been a front and center thing for me really all my life. I have known since I was very young, like 6 or 7 years old, that I was looking for a good mother. So,
mm,
but in the process of that, several years ago, I met a friend who drew me into relationship in ways that felt very nurturing and very loving and very motherly.
mm,
And that as we got connected, there were a lot of subtle aspects that I wasn't catching.
mhm,
Things that were drawing me into a very enmeshed relationship with her, where there was manipulation, where I was being drawn toward her to as my one and only resource, that other relationships were being pressed away because she had this desire to be kind of like the one and only. And I could see I could see some of and feel. I think my body really felt and issued a lot of caution to me, like, "Ooh, be careful. Ooh, be cautious. Oh, stop." But the goodness that she gave from that good mother perspective, the kind words, the affirmation, the building up, the gentle touches on my hand, just the nurturing qualities that she offered me were so good that even though I knew some things here don't feel right, I did not listen to the warning signals,
mhm.
and became in a relationship that was very enmeshed, that just brought a lot of hurt and a lot of pain to my life, and to even my to other people's lives of people around me. So it had a very big effect, and it's even, you can hear in my voice, you can hear the my voice is getting weak. I feel there's some emotional connection still, that not connection to her, but to this story. There's pain. And I'm not going to say there's regret. I think I've worked through so much and have come to see a lot of the reasons of what happened, what was occurring, why I walked into this enmeshment the way that I did. And
Mhm.
but yeah, there just was a lot of pain that that
Yeah,
was a part of that.
yeah, and I know that you've had a lot of care around this, and there's been a lot of healing for you, but I'm just really aware and noticing this is really the first time that you've kind of gone into this story in more detail.
Yeah.
And I am curious, how is that feeling for you right now? Because we've already said we won't air this episode if there's any level of hesitancy or not feeling safe. But can I go ahead and ask you, what does it feel like right now to share that?
Yeah. Yes, thank you. I feel I'm very curious about what's happening with my voice. I will say that.
Mhm,
That feels important to me. This has been a typical reaction that I will have if I get close to really deep emotion.
Mhm.
So it is intriguing to me that
Well,
that's happening, and I'm not exactly sure how to read that, but I am noticing, I
mhm,
am aware, I'm curious.
mhm,
I will say that I feel like I'm here in the present moment. I do not feel like I'm dissociating.
mhm.
My body feels stable. Um, I feel a little bit of trembling, but not excessive. I don't feel like I'm going into dysregulation or dissociation, but definitely there's some stirring of deeper emotions here.
Well, I've been with you long enough to know and see that I see what you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
I'll just say this, it almost feels like you're on the edge. I know you're still here.
Hmm. Yep.
I know you're still fully present, but I wonder if I can just take a couple minutes here and you just go ahead and take some deep breaths,
Yeah.
get to stay present. And I want to kind of explain some things to our listeners. So it's that bind, right, that you encountered when you were getting crumbs of that desire to have someone see you, someone soothe you, someone providing some safety and security. And sometimes it's comes as real, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's actually so it's actually about the other person's own needs, okay? And their woundedness.
Yep.
But yet, of course, share. Of course, you went towards those crumbs.
Yeah.
And they were crumbs.
Yeah.
There were crumbs of goodness. And I love that you're naming that you don't have regret because of the work that you've done. Wow, now my voice is getting kind of cracky. Hold on. I love that you are able to bring this story. Am I muted?
No.
Oh, okay. It looked like it said I was muted. Or I can cut that out. Yeah, and so I think what I would like to do with what you just shared is to at least for other people that wonder, why would I be drawn to something that would end up causing me pain and maybe other people pain?
Yeah.
It's because that crumb feels real.
Hmm.
Like it does. And I'll tell you, when you feel like you're emotionally starving,
Yeah.
a crumb feels better than nothing.
Yeah. And I have recognized that in that relationship, my little girl was so running the show.
Mhm.
My little girl was getting crumbs
Mm.
and she was starving. And so
Mhm.
the crumbs felt like sustenance. And what I didn't recognize was that this friend was really consuming me.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah. And so where I thought I was getting something good from her, I was actually giving her
Mhm.
m- my goodness, she was wanting to consume what she saw as the goodness and glory
Well,
in
you
me.
surrendered your desire to somebody who wasn't safe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and now you know why,
Yeah. It took me
and
a
you can
while.
turn towards I'm sorry?
It took me a while in that relationship before I could see. It took me quite a while before I could see and understand what the dynamic was. I mean, long after that relationship had ended before I came into really being able to understand what in the world happened there.
Mhm.
And but yeah, it's like when when we have these unhealed wounds in us and we get crumbs, we can leap toward them. And then we find ourselves enmeshed. And we talked a little bit, Candace, we wanted to just talk a little bit about what is enmeshment, because this can happen when we move toward a relationship with good desire. And all of a sudden, we're in something that we don't quite know how, we don't know what's going on. And it feels almost impossible to get ourselves out of it.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, enmeshment is really codependency. So we are created to be interdependent, but in that interdependency, there's still differentiation. This is you and your needs. This is me and my needs. And out of the overflow, we can come together and be a support and a blessing to one another. But when you get into enmeshment, there's a sense of I need you. You need me. And if you're not okay, I'm not okay. And if I'm not okay, you better not be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of demand in enmeshment.
Yeah.
In healthy interdependency, it's invitation. And so I'm thinking there's probably going to be quite a few listeners who can really relate to this idea of something that looked and felt really good.
Yeah.
And they got themselves into this enmeshment of a relationship that
Mhm.
ended up causing so much pain.
Yeah.
Some of those relationships, if both people are willing to bring the dynamic into the light and do their own work to heal, can actually be repaired. I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can't.
Yeah.
And so, this relationship that you're talking about absolutely had to be severed, right?
Yeah.
Had to end. And I'm just aware that there's almost a reeling, and that's what I feel like you were naming. Like I had to figure out what had happened there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as you've done that, like where are you at with that now that you understand the dynamic?
Yeah. I mean, the truth is I carried deep shame for 15 years,
Mm,
maybe more. And when I began to really do story work and get into this community of people who understand trauma and how to hear a story like this and hold it, in the midst of that story, I had someone, my coach of many years, who was able to see me and soothe me and keep me safe and secure as we began to peel back the layers of what had happened and what it was that caused me to disregard the warning signs and all of the pieces. And
mm,
so I feel like I can't remember, where am I with it now? I feel like I feel mostly very free and without shame, and I chose to talk about it on the podcast today. And at the same time, I'm really curious about my what came up inside of me
mm,
as I shared that, and
mm,
that my voice went, and that I felt.
mm,
You were right when you slowed me down and had me take breaths, that I needed to pause right there. And so there's still some things rattling around and shaking around. And so, okay, this says to me, I probably want to have some conversations about this again. So,
mm. So I want to say that you went to your growth edge today.
yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
you stepped a little bit outside of that window of tolerance, just a little bit,
Yep.
and yet you didn't keep going into what you lean towards hypoarousal.
Right.
So I want to say good work, friend. And you still get to choose whether we publish this or not.
Well, and
Um,
I want to say too, thank you for seeing me, Candace. You saw me in that moment and you said, okay, take some breaths while I talk about, and that being able to just, again, because of the neural pathways, I could connect my prefrontal cortex with what you were saying, and it helped get me grounded. It didn't make me leave the story, but it helped get me grounded and come back into my sweet spot of tolerance so that we could continue on in this conversation. So, thank you.
yeah, you're very welcome. You do that for me often, and I love being able to do that for you. I'm actually not going to answer this question today, but maybe next time.
Okay.
I want to go back to something else you said, and maybe I don't know how much time we have left, but take a few minutes because you said something that I just I think is something that is so true. So you hired a coach, okay? Your coach didn't need anything from you,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So when you started working with your coach, I'm using you, but this can be true for all of us. There is a sense that because we're programmed to always meet somebody else's needs, right? That we actually try to do that. I think we
Yeah.
both have had our coaches tell us, you
Yeah.
don't have to care for me.
Oh, repeatedly. Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so I want to just name this that this is why we believe in hiring like paying someone to not need anything from you except to care for you.
Yeah.
There really is this safe container, and I'm not saying you can't have that in other relationships or friendship,
Mhm.
but I think at the beginning of the healing journey, because you don't even know these things about yourself, but your coach will,
Yeah.
and they can guide you to be able to just allow yourself to receive.
We've talked about this before about how when I started working with my coach and she would ask me every session, "What do you need?" And I just hated that. I couldn't because I didn't know. But I will tell you, I was reading her, trying to figure out what she needed
Mhm.
because I felt because that is what I knew. I knew how to take care of you. I don't
Right.
really know how to take care of me, but I will take I don't even know what I need, right? But so because she saw that and she would call it out and she would say, "I just want you to know I'm good. I have people to take care of me. But I'm here like I want us to uncover what it is that you need." And
Mhm.
that was a lot of work in the early sessions was really me coming to peace with with that dynamic of our relationship that I was not going to come into the session and figure out what she needed.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I wanna mention, our coaches, were trained through the Allender Center, Dan and Becky Allender, and the work that they have done for decades
Yeah.
to bring this level of healing in the lives of victims of childhood trauma.
Yeah.
And I love that there's this community that just continues to grow. Share, it grows because there's fruit.
Yeah.
There's fruit because we're getting to the root. Now,
Mm.
I think back in the day, we would hear these things, these terminologies, and I'm not saying none of it worked, but most of it didn't,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
Because I guess I've been doing it for 30 years and 5 years ago I came into story work and it was like bam.
Yeah, so I wanna say thank God for the Allender Center, and there's no you know, we have to take on our responsibility to do our part,
Yeah.
but they have provided so much goodness in this world of integrating, spirituality, theology, psychology, and yeah, we just found our home there.
Mhm. Yeah, and so deeply grateful for it.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, friend, for taking us there today, and as always, I'm here to process anything after the processing. And I just love you so much, Cher.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me to go here, and for holding the space, and for providing the aftercare.
I'm here.
I know. I'm
Okay.
counting on it.
Okay.
Yeah, really good to be with you, Candace.
You too. Goodbye.
Yep, love you.
Love you.